Right, I'm sitting here today with Maxine van Oosten, who's standing for the Hamilton City Council East Ward.
Sure there.
As you may notice, she cycles. This is for real. She does use this gizmo called a bicycle. So we can assume from that, or infer from that, that you are reasonably strongly in favour of cycle infrastructure. And on our side, I say that as a cyclist, on our side, to some degree. But not extremely radically on that side. So you've got a bit of common sense about how the money's spent and, fiscal responsibility in council with an effort to support cycling, I'm assuming. So where I'd normally ask, why should we vote for you? This time I'm asking, yes, why should we vote for you? But what's your view on both the current infrastructure we've got and, as a sitting councillor, you've had a lot to do with saying how this has progressed over the last 3 years. So if you'd just like to talk on the infrastructure we've got and the direction it's going in, and hopefully keep it going for another term and keep progress moving forward. And what do you think cycling infrastructure will look like, hopefully, if it all goes to plan, in, say, 10 years' time from now?
Well, I love those questions, Lance. Yes, that is my bike behind you. It is an electric bike, actually, and I love it because that gives me the chance to be able to get to where I'm going and back again. Yeah. It lets me to be able to go a little bit further as well, actually, so I can plan a longer journey with that bike without breaking myself, actually. I'm a mature woman, and but it doesn't mean that I get a free ride on it because actually I still have to put some effort into it. And without, though, having to be just putting all of my effort into cycling, it lets me to be able to see around me and to be really aware of how safe I am on the road, where I'm positioned on the road, watching out for other obstacles or intersections or places where it is unsafe. So I am a total advocate for electric bikes. It's amazing. It's really liberating. On the
electric bike, but just sorry to interrupt. But do you find that it allows you to go further? Because that's when I got an electric bike, I found it allowed me to go further because I didn't have to take into account the trip back over some hills if I knew I was going to, say, spend 4 hours walking around the zoo taking photographs and then had to come home and go up a hill. I found I could go further because I knew if I needed to, I could get more assistance from the bike than I did going.
Yeah, you're right. It does allow you to go further, and I've done some really great rides around Hamilton, up over the Perry Bridge, south on the new, all the way just about. Soon we'll be able to go from my home all the way to the velodrome. You can't just do that quite just yet, but I've cycled on that piece of road as well. I've also cycled from my address in Hamilton East up to the new Ruakura infrastructure that's put in there, all the way out to around the university and all the way out to the new expressway as well. Amazing. My husband and I cycled out there a month or so ago all the way to vendors.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was really nice to be able to have a coffee there and enjoy being outside and the great infrastructure that's set down. So, it's excellent. But it also allows me to get up the hill to do my local trips as well, actually. And Kat likes to be involved too. So that's really cool stuff, actually, because it lets me to be able to do getting from home for all those little journeys that you tend to do to get, I don't know, milk or meet a friend or, just to get outside and go up to the markets in Hamilton East on the weekend. So, that's a really good part of having an electric bike.
How well do you think our infrastructure coverage is for how you use a bike and the places you go? Are there areas are there gaps in it that you would like to see sorted out eventually?
Do you know what I'd love? What it'd be so good is to have the kind of infrastructure that's up Ruakura Road. But, I mean, that's That's not possible everywhere.
No.
And actually, it's not affordable everywhere and not needed everywhere either. In our little streets, in my local street where I've got a 40-kilometre-an-hour speed limit here, I can fairly safely ride on the road.
Like we did coming here just now.
Yeah, that's right. On the road, I take the lane, and I'm learning how to do that in a really safe way. But I'm also really mindful of drivers as well. I don't want to annoy anybody or be a problem. So, I do like to keep left. If we're thinking about what the gold standard is, that's off-road, safe cycling lanes and separated pedestrian footpaths. Can't be everywhere. And so,
the trouble is retrofitting some stuff.
Yeah.
The city wasn't designed to add this later, but I noticed some of the new developments are taking this into account now.
Yeah, and they absolutely should have to consider that and provide options for people to be able to get around. In fact, there's an amazing development that's happening in South Auckland that isn't allowing cars into it. And so you have to be able to cycle and walk to get to your home from the outskirts. So kind of cool, but, not realistic everywhere.
Yeah.
I think if you've got a variety of different options, getting across our bridges in Hamilton isn't easy, and for me that's the Anzac Bridge, one of the scariest bridges to get across actually, made a little bit better by the most recent upgrades to it.
Yeah.
There's those cycle wands that have put on the sides to protect at some pinch points, which is great actually. It helps me to feel like I'm
I'd forgotten how busy that bridge was until today. When Phil presented that ghost bike to Wakakotahi, I'd completely forgotten how busy that piece of road gets compared to others, because the bridge I go across, Taldwin's Bridge, isn't anywhere near as busy.
No. We've got a project into Wakakotahi, the city to university link, and a part of that is a walking and cycling bridge, which will make the world of difference to the use of cycling and pedestrianisation.
Is there any idea where that's likely to go?
Somewhere by the new jetty in the back of the museum, all the way over to Pirana Park, and come out at Memorial Drive. There's some plans on our website with the whole of the university link potentially in it, and so we've got. I think it's on the tentative list for Wakakotahi. We haven't got the tick off on the funding from Wakakotahi at this stage, and it's
but they're leaning
tens
that
of
way?
millions of dollars, which Hamilton City Council can't fund on its own.
Part of the issue that people have to keep in mind is the cost of putting this stuff in. There's the feasibility of squeezing stuff into existing infrastructure. Then there's the cost of putting it in. And yes, I sometimes think some of this should have been started 20, 30 years ago, because we've been a different place now. And on that, where do you think we potentially could be in 10 years' time? Realistically, as in like what we'd hope for, and realistically according to potential
Just
funding.
in case you didn't know, my name is Dutch.
Yeah.
I married a Dutchman and have embraced the culture of the Dutch, and that's a big cycling culture. They had to start somewhere themselves, though. And so, it'd be great to be able to look to what's been successful in Holland. And we're talking about the 70s when that started. So, that's 50 years ago. And so we've got a 50-year time lag. But if we don't start really ramping up from now, we're not going to be anywhere nearer to a finish line. I think the best place for us to start, and a really great way to do that, is to start with the younger generation. My generation, potentially it's a little bit late for, although, we are seeing a lot of more mature people getting on electric bikes and enjoying.
But we both probably
thing from
grew
that.
up in an age when it was normal for kids to ride to school and very rare for kids to get a lift to school.
Yeah.
I lived in a country town, and you either walked or rode to school, or you were way out in the country and you caught the bus to school.
Yeah, true.
The
But we've got so
likelihood-
many more cars on the road now, and parents just don't feel like it's safe to have their kids riding and walking any longer, and scooting too, because actually it's cool for kids to scoot.
So do you think if we can solve that as a safety issue, so parents can feel safer having their kids riding to school, do you think the flow-on effect from that would be more kids riding to school that then ride as adults, and when they get to our age, they are... It's normalised for them?
And you just go and look at the Dutch, because that's how they do it.
Yeah.
The kids ride. They, as an 8-year-old, 8 and 10-year-olds, they have to pass a cycling, a little bit like our car licensing test. It's amazing. And every year they get out and they have to do the work, have to be able to demonstrate that they understand what it is. They get ticked off, and they're cyclists set up for life. They know what the rules are, know how to keep themselves safe and others around them safe. And that's the kind of beginnings that we need to be doing.
Yeah.
Hamilton City Council do have the funding, and we have dedicated resource for education for our kids.
Yeah.
That could be better, of course. We've got some funding in our annual plan that puts into place 2 trials, pilots of school groupings, one on the east, one on the west, to be able to talk to schools about what a travel plan might look like for their school, to be able to build some knowledge and some understanding about that with the kids, do some real great education with them, and then look for them to be able to set up some really positive actions around it.
Has there been any discussion about some sort of education program for those that want to take part for the slightly older generation, 40 plus, who haven't ridden since they were kids but are now wanting to get back into that as the infrastructure?
Yes. There is actually. I don't think Hamilton City Council... I think we do actually from time to time, and I think Cam runs a lot of that education stuff. But Celia Hope also, and you might recognise Celia's name. Her husband passed away sadly on Ruakura Road, and is part of the reason we've got that great infrastructure happening around there. She's a trained safety educator for cycling, and so it'd be really great to be able to get that information and knowledge out there as well. I think we don't do enough on advertising what that education is, educating not just the riders but the people behind the wheel as well, because actually I don't just ride a bike. I catch a bus and I drive a car, and I could be better at all of those things, frankly, as maybe we all could. But
that came up in and part of the thing with the presentation of this ghost bike was Phil mentioned how a lot of car drivers either aren't aware of certain road rules around use of cycle lanes and not parking in them, not driving in them, etc., or are just, in some cases just ignoring, like the people who run red lights, etc. But there is a certain lack of knowledge about certain road rules relating to cyclists, and how cars are obliged under the law to interact with cyclists. So, there's a bit of I think, because once you get your licence, most people aren't fully aware of law changes very often. Maybe that left-hand turn thing came in and out again. There's a big thing about that. But the things about the use of cycle lanes and stuff, as far as I can tell, most people who drive a car and don't ride aren't aware of the rules around that until they get a ticket.
Yeah, I think what happens is we get in the car, we're in a hurry, we know where we're going, we just want to get there quickly. We don't necessarily practice a lot of social driving. Which is about understanding other people on the road, really taking account of, and being mindful, observing if there's a pedestrian coming, if you've got the lights coming up, whereabouts the cyclists are, and, there's a bus right behind you as well, letting the bus out. All of those kinds of real social responsible. I'm using the road, but lots of other people are too. How can we share it in the best and safest way?
As someone running for council and a person who drives a car, when you got your bike, did you find after a while that you tended to have a lot more interaction with the people around you because you could see them differently than being in a car?
Do you know, I love that, because when you're cycling, you can say hello to your neighbours who are walking or who are doing the gardening in the front garden, or, you know, somebody at the cafe, you know, as you scoot past, and, you know, you can wave to other people. You're just much more in the moment, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, the car, when you're shut in it, you've got your radio going or, you know, your music on, and it's just an insular little box that you really don't necessarily have much contact with the outside world around here.
That's one of the things I enjoy about riding is if I get stressed about things, I'll go for a ride, and often I'll be riding past and I'll wave to people, other cyclists, whatever, people walking along. I rode to Tamaheri once on the road, admittedly. It wasn't on the cycle path thing because I was going somewhere else at Tamaheri. And someone was out doing a walk. They were practicing for some long marathon walk over some ranges in the South Island or something or other.
Fun.
And they were briskly walking. And we sort of got talking. I was slow. They were walking quite fast, so I didn't have to slow down a hell of a lot. So I was going at a what I call a fast walking pace, and we were holding a conversation.
Fun.
Right?
Yeah.
And the guy pointed out. He said, you know, it was quite interesting having the discussion because it really taxes his cardiovascular system, talking and walking fast at the same time, which is what he needed, which is why he was walking for miles and miles.
Yeah.
He was giving me a few things about experiences he had walking along the sides of roads with cars.
Oh, I bet,
Which was interesting because I could relate to it because he got the pedestrian, because he's walking country roads so much, right? He got the pedestrian version that I get on the road in town.
Yeah.
The experiences were very similar. Which was
I think what we also have to do, and while you talk about speed, just jogs my thinking about what we need to do in our city around speed, actually.
Yeah.
And, you know, I already told you I've got a street here that's 40 kilometres an hour, and mostly people do it. There's the odd one or two that you notice that aren't. But, you know, that's what we have to be able to duplicate right across our city. Speed is the killer, actually. You know, you've got less time to react. You've got, you know, more time to... If you're going more slowly, there's less impact if you have an accident.
Especially in built-up areas where there's likely to be people. Yep. I've got a very quiet street.
Schools, 30 Ks, streets,
I love
40. That. Yeah. Maybe our arterials a bit faster,
like Wide
50s.
Drive and things like
Wide
that.
Eddy Drive can be 60 to 80, you know.
Yeah, not a problem.
Because you do want people to still be able to get around easily. You still want trucks and service vehicles to be able to get about their business. You don't want to hamper that. But if we've got slower speeds, we've got safer neighbourhoods, we've got an easier way for our kids
the one
to get
road
to
I've
school
had the
and
least
safer.
issue with traffic on is my own street, because it's a little back, quiet street, runs parallel to Heafy Terrace, but it pretty much doesn't get much traffic down it except for those that live there, and delivery vans and things like that. And it is one of the most, for all it's narrow and it needs resurfacing because it's got potholes like craters on the moon in parts of it.
Yeah.
It is one of the most pleasant streets to ride down for me, especially in summer when the trees are in leaf and things like that. It's quiet. It's nice to ride down. You know, I will pull if I see a car coming. I'll pull in and let another car go. Or often they'll see me first and they'll pull over to one side and know they're giving me the right of way. And it's very friendly. And then there's the friendly wave.
That's that social driving, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're on a bike, you know, it is that social driving, being mindful of others around you and taking.
The thing I love is the communication, just the casual wave and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'll always try, if I'm on my bike, try to catch the eye of the driver because, you know, that way I know that they've seen me and that, I'm on the road too.
At this time of year, it's really funny because I see all the candidates that have seen me taking photographs at the meetings, see me on the road, and they always wave, and it's quite funny. But
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Oh well. Thanks
you.
very much for your time. I'll let you get on with your day. But yeah,
Brilliant.
thanks very much for your time, and good luck.
Kia ora, and
in the
thank
election,
you.
and keep cycling.
Yeah,
Keep
that's
up-
right. Excellent.
Keep up the effort.
Yeah, thank you. And look, and I'm standing for a healthy city, and a part of that is about having safe ways for people to be able to get around our city, not just in a car, but on the footpaths, on your bike, in a bus. All of those things count.
Stay safe and stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely you do. And also, if you're using your own means to be able to get around, your feet and your bike, you're not putting carbon out in the atmosphere either. So
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about the price of petrol on one of these things.
True.